Hi, Spirit 1053 family. Welcome into Wednesday's verse video. I am so glad that you're here. We are continuing to study the life of Joseph the dreamer in the Bible. It's an incredible story. It easily could be a movie. You have a young man who at the age of 17 is sold into slavery by his brothers, his own flesh and blood, because, well, sometimes he got a little arrogant and they were just so mad at him enough to sell their own brother into slavery. And Joseph heads to Egypt and he works for a man named Potiphar. And he does such a good job that Potiphar puts him in charge of his entire house. And things are looking pretty good for Joseph for a while until Potiphar's wife falsely accuses Joseph of trying to seduce her. Once again, Joseph knocked down, but not knocked out, because all the while, through all of his trials, God was with Joseph. Welcome in to Stephanie and Jennifer. So good to have your company. So Joseph gets sent to jail, and in the jail, he does such a good job that he's put over all of the other prisoners. Matter of fact, the Bible tells us the head of the jail, all he had to worry about was eating his 3 meals a day. He left everything up to Joseph. And in jail, he interprets 2 dreams for 2 fellow prisoners. One was the cupbearer to Pharaoh, and that cupbearer was restored to his position. And Joseph said to him, "When you get out of here, remember me." But the cupbearer forgot until one day Pharaoh had a dream that required interpretation. And the cupbearer remembered. And Joseph interpreted the dreams for Pharaoh. And Pharaoh found out through Joseph that there was going to be 7 years of plenty in Egypt, followed by 7 years of famine. And what do you think Pharaoh said? "I appoint you, Joseph. You are going to collect all of the grain throughout the 7 years of plenty and store it for the 7 years of famine." Pharaoh made Joseph the second most important man in Egypt. So Joseph was betrayed by his family. He was sold into slavery. He went to jail falsely accused. 13 years pass before he is promoted by Pharaoh. All the while, God was with Joseph. He never left him. And all the while, there was a plan. So we're going to pick up the story today in Genesis, of course, right there near the beginning of your Bible, chapter 42. Interesting. And welcome. If you Google Genesis, the first thing you're going to see is a car. So we've come a long way, haven't we? But Genesis is still the first book of the Bible. And here we are in chapter 42. Now remember, Joseph's father, Jacob, never knew that his sons sold Joseph into slavery. Jacob went all of these years believing that Joseph was dead. So remember that. When Jacob learned that there was food in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you sit around here and look at one another? I've heard that there is food in Egypt. Go down there and buy some so that we can survive and not starve to death." And if we stop here for just 1 minute, Sophia, we see that God, even though the brothers meant it for evil, God was going to use Joseph to keep his own family, his own father, from starving 13 years down the road. It's unbelievable. And I hope you can see the parallels in your own story today, to know that God is always working out a plan for your good and his glory. It's amazing. 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to Egypt to get food. Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with them. He was afraid that something bad might happen to him. Benjamin was Jacob's youngest, and he had lost Joseph. He didn't want to lose Benjamin too. So Israel's sons joined everyone else that was going to Egypt to buy food, for Canaan too was hit hard by the famine. Joseph was running the country. It's unbelievable. He was the one who gave out rations to all the people. When Joseph's brothers arrived, they treated him with honor, bowing to him. Do you remember the dream back at the beginning of this story when Joseph dreamed that his brothers were bowing down to him? It was a prophetic dream. They made fun of him. They called him arrogant for sharing that dream, but it came true several chapters later and 13 years later. Joseph recognized them immediately, but treated them as strangers and spoke roughly to them. Let's feel this moment. I know that the verse videos this week are a little longer than usual, and I appreciate your patience. Sally and Becky, welcome. But there's so much meat. It is such a feast every day. And I feel like we have to stop for a second and feel what Joseph had been feeling. Imagine if your siblings had thrown you in a cistern and were thinking about killing you and then decided to sell you into slavery instead. And 13 years go by and you've suffered so much and you see them again and they don't recognize you. Holy cow. I mean, this is unbelievable. Joseph said, "Where do you come from?" "From Canaan," they said. "We've come to buy food." Joseph knew who they were, but they didn't know who he was. Joseph, remembering the dreams he had dreamed of them, said, "You're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots." "No, master," they said. "We've only come to buy food. We're all sons of the same man. We're honest men. We would never think of spying." He said, "No, you're spies. You've come to look for our weak spots." They said, "There were 12 of us brothers, sons of the same father in the country of Canaan. The youngest is with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said, "It's just as I said, you're spies. This is how I'll test you. As Pharaoh lives, you're not going to leave this place until your younger brother comes here. Send one of you to get your brother while the rest of you stay here in jail. We'll see if you're telling the truth or not. As Pharaoh lives, I say you're spies." I can't begrudge Joseph this moment. I'm not sure if he acted in the godliest fashion, but Veronica, Kathy, I mean, you feel for him, right? He's hurt. He's wounded. He did not expect to wake up that day and see his brothers who had hurt him so badly. So he's testing them. Then he threw them into jail for 3 days. On the third day, Joseph spoke to them. "Do this and you will live. I'm a God-fearing man. If you're as honest as you say you are, one of your brothers will stay here in jail while the rest of you take the food back to your hungry families. But you have to bring your youngest brother back to me, confirming the truth of your speech, and not one of you will die." They agreed. Then they started talking among themselves. "Now we're paying for what we did to our brother. We saw how terrified he was when he was begging us for mercy. We wouldn't listen to him, and now we're the ones in trouble." Reuben broke in. "Didn't I tell you? Don't hurt the boy." But no, you wouldn't listen. And now we're paying for his murder. They too think Joseph was dead. Joseph had been using an interpreter, so they didn't know that Joseph was understanding every word. Joseph turned away from them and cried. Doesn't that just break your heart? Can you imagine all of the emotions? His heart must have been like a cauldron of emotions. When he was able to speak again, he took Simeon and had him tied up, making a prisoner of him while they all watched. Then Joseph ordered that their sacks be filled with grain, that their money that they brought to pay for the grain be put back in each sack, and that they be given rations for the road. That was all done for them. They loaded their food supplies on their donkeys and set off. When they stopped for the night, one of them opened his sack to get food out for the donkey, and there at the mouth of his bag was his money. He called out to his brothers, "My money has been returned. It's right here in my bag." They were puzzled and frightened. What is God doing to us? When they got back to their father Jacob back in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened, saying, "The man who runs the country spoke to us roughly and accused us of being spies. We told him, 'We are honest men and in no way spies. There were 12 brothers, sons of our father, one who is gone, and the youngest is with our father in Canaan.' But the master of the country said, 'Leave one of your brothers with me. Take food for your starving families and go. Bring your youngest brother back to me, proving that you're honest men and not spies. And then I'll give your brother back to you, and you'll be free to come and go in this country.' As they were emptying their food sacks, each man came on his purse of money. On seeing their money, they and their father were upset. Their father said to them, 'You're taking everything I've got.' Man, Joseph's gone, Simeon's gone, and now you want to take Benjamin. If you have your way, I'll be left with nothing." Reuben spoke up. "I'll put my 2 sons in your hands as hostages. If I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill them. Trust me with Benjamin. I'll bring him back. A little violent, huh? But Jacob refused. My son will not go down with you. His brother is dead, and he is all I have left. If something bad happens to him on the road, you'll put my gray, sorrowing head in the grave. There's so much going on here. There's so much hurt that's being exposed in Joseph's heart, in the hearts of each of his brothers. And now we're going to read 43 together. Okay, and we're going to see more of the unfolding of this very dramatic story. The famine got worse. When they had eaten all the food they had brought back from Egypt, their father said, "Go back and get some more food." But Judah said, "The man warned us most emphatically, you won't so much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you. If you're ready to release our brother to go with us, we'll go down and get you food. But if you're not ready, we aren't going. What would be the use? The man told us you won't so much as see my face if you don't have your brother with you." Israel said, remember, Israel is another name for Jacob. He was known by both. "Why are you making my life so difficult? Why did you ever tell the man you had another brother?" They said, "The man pressed us hard, asking pointed questions about our family. Is your father alive? Do you have another brother?" So we answered his questions. How did we know that he'd say, "Bring your brother here"? Judah pushed his father, Israel. "Let the boy go. I'll take charge of him. Let us go and be on our way. If we don't get going, we're all going to starve to death, we and you and our children too. I'll take full responsibility for his safety. It's my life on the line for his. If I don't bring him back safe and sound, I'm the guilty one. I'll take all the blame. If we had gone ahead in the first place, instead of procrastinating like this, we could have been there and back twice over." I can't speak to Simeon's heart directly, Euroscu and Janice. I don't know if his heart changed, but it looks like it might have. Now he's willing to sacrifice his life so that the entire family can live. Over the years, it seems to me that God worked on the hearts of Joseph's brothers. It's what it appears to me, what I'm interpreting from the word. I'm not sure if I'm 100% right on that. I would love to know what you think in the comments. Okay, so their father Israel gave in. If it has to be, it has to be. But do this. Stuff your packs with the finest products from the land of Canaan you can find and take them to the man as gifts. Some balm and honey, some spices and perfume, some pistachios and almonds, and take plenty of money. Pay back double what was returned to your sacks that might have been a mistake. Take your brother and get going. Go back to the man, and may the strong God give you grace in that man's eyes so that he'll send back your other brother along with Benjamin. For me, nothing's left. I've lost everything. Actually, Jacob is about to gain everything back. The men took the gifts, double the money, and Benjamin. They lost no time in getting to Egypt and meeting Joseph. When Joseph saw that they had Benjamin with them, he told his house steward, "Take these men into the house and make them at home. Butcher an animal and prepare a meal. These men are going to eat with me at noon." The steward did what Joseph had said and took them inside. But they became anxious when they were brought into Joseph's home, thinking, "It's the money. He thinks we ran off with the money on our first trip down here. And now he's got us where he wants us. He's going to turn us into slaves and confiscate our donkeys." They were afraid. So they went up to Joseph's house, the steward, and talked to him in the doorway. They said, "Listen, master, we came down here one other time to buy food. On our way home the first night out, we opened our bags and found our money at the mouth of the bag, the exact amount we'd paid. We've brought it all back and have plenty more to buy more food with. We have no idea who put the money in our bags." Honesty. The brothers are now being honest. They're not lying and saying that Joseph, we found his coat. He must have been killed by a wild animal. No, they're being honest now. I believe God has been working on their hearts. The steward said, "Everything's in order. Don't worry. Your God and the God of your father must have given you a bonus. I was paid in full." And with that, he presented Simeon to them. Remember, Simeon was left in jail while the brothers went home to bring back Benjamin. He then took them inside Joseph's house and made them comfortable, gave them water to wash their feet, and saw to the feeding of their donkeys. The brothers spread out their gifts as they waited for Joseph to show up at noon. They had been told that they were to have dinner with him. When Joseph got home, they presented him with the gifts they had brought and bowed respectfully before him. Joseph welcomed them and said, "And your old father, whom you mentioned to me, how is he? Is he still alive?" Can you imagine not knowing if your mother or father was alive? Oh, the emotions of this story are hard to process. It's incredible. They said, "Yes, your servant, our father, is quite well, very much alive." And they again bowed respectfully before them. Then Joseph picked out his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son. Just Joseph and Benjamin had the same mother because, Jacob had, his wife was Rachel. He had Leah, his other wife, and then he had concubines. So there were several mothers of his children, but only Joseph and Benjamin shared the same mother, Rachel. So it says, then Joseph picked out his brother Benjamin, his own mother's son. He asked, "And is this your youngest brother that you told me about?" Then he said, "God be gracious to you, my son." Have you ever looked at a person that you love, especially someone younger than you? In my case, I think about my niece and nephew when I go to see them, Matt Man and Kenzie. And I want to put my hand on their heads and say, "God bless you. May God be gracious to you." Can you see Joseph doing that in that moment? His heart so full to see Benjamin after all of those years had passed by 13 years without seeing his beloved brother. Deeply moved on seeing his brother and about to burst into tears, Joseph hurried out into another room and had a good cry. "Yeah, I understand that." Then he washed his face, got a grip on himself, and said, "Let's eat." He's my kind of guy. Joseph was served at his private table, the brothers off by themselves, and the Egyptians off by themselves. Egyptians won't eat at the same table with Hebrews. It's repulsive to them. The brothers were seated facing Joseph, arranged in the order of their age, from the oldest to the youngest. They looked at one another wide-eyed, wondering what would happen next. They still don't know. When the brothers' plates were served from Joseph's table, Benjamin's plate came piled high, far more than any of his brothers. And so the brothers feasted with Joseph, drinking freely. And that is where we have to stop for today at the end of chapter 43 in Genesis. Tomorrow is the big reveal. Tomorrow, Joseph is going to share with his brothers, I think it's tomorrow, in chapter 44 or 45. I think it's in one of those chapters where Joseph reveals himself. But this story is so powerful. I hope that learning about Joseph is encouraging you to keep persevering in your situation in the knowledge that everything that happens for a reason. When Jesus tells us all things work together for the good of those who believe and who are called according to his purpose. I think I got one word in that verse wrong. It's Romans 8:28 if you want to look it up. But all things work together for the good of those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. All things. They're working together. If you can picture Tara Welcome, a symphony, all of the instruments are working together to create beautiful music. That's Joseph's story. Even the bad things, they're all working together in the symphony of God's faithfulness and grace. And it is the same for you. Your life is a symphony too. So remember that tomorrow. Wow, we're getting closer to the big reveal. Be here. Thank you for your precious time. I love these few minutes that we have together every day. If this message has encouraged you, I encourage you to share it. You can also copy the link and email it to somebody if you like. If you want to go deeper in your faith, if you are starting to have a hunger and a thirst for God that you've never had before, I encourage you to text the word Easter to 89419. And we have an opportunity for you here at Spirit 1053 to just dive a little deeper into your faith. So text the word Easter to 89419, and I will see you tomorrow. Remember, you are loved.